One of the major things that dominated yesterday's headline was the Crypto Clarity Act with a lot of expectation. And if you saw the video we posted yesterday, you understand that we had a lot of expectation towards the Senate proposal for the Clarity Act to be passed or have a proper headway today. However, now we have the update concerning the Clarity Act. And if you don't know what the Clarity Act is, the Clarity Act is the act, let's say the crypto sponsored bill to allow the legalization, the proper demand and supply or usage as a legal exchange of cryptocurrency in the United States. And now we are saying that the Crypto Clarity Act hits fresh Senate hurdle ahead of August recess. Very important to mention that they are trying to push this act to at least get a proper momentum before the August recess of the Senate. However, there are few things that raised concern today. One of the few things that raised concern was the fact that in the Senate, they need at least 59 or I think 60 votes to pass up the Clarity Act to even give it a proper head. And so far, they only have 52 Republicans in favor of that act. And that means they need to woo in at least 8 Democrat senators to have the proper backing for this Clarity Act. And that is not going on very, very well. Let's see a few details from this particular page. So the US Senate version of the Clarity Act has hit another roadblock, according to new report. The updated draft expected this week still does not have broad support from the Senate Democrat. Therefore, negotiation remains active before lawmakers can schedule a floor vote. So they still have to make sure they've done enough lobbying before they even try to push in for the voting session of the Clarity Act. So the thing is, and the reason why they're having some little bottleneck situation is the fact that the Democrats want more safeguards, and they want more safeguards towards the adoption of crypto as a legal tender, because they're saying they are very big on the fact that they don't want government officials, which says, however, it would also allow elected officials to continue profiting from the digital asset. That means they argue that Clarity Act, without addressing Trump's crypto interest, President's crypto interest, would create a regulatory framework. However, it would also allow elected officials to continue profiting from digital asset. That means it to give room for manipulation, give room for some sort of things that are actually not okay in the crypto space. So that's that about the Clarity Act. And let's look at these that today so far we've had a major fall in the prices of cryptocurrency across all board, because that was after Trump's speech today. However, we've seen some proper change in the crypto market since the last release of the consumer price index, the CPI data for the month of June. But since Trump's speech yesterday, or let me say earlier today, we've had some downturn from his speech where he actually talked about American being wealthier, being more stronger under his regime. Yeah. They recorded a very, very, very large inflation drop in this period compared, I think, the biggest they've ever seen in the last 4 years. But that is not just enough, because market is telling us that that was not just enough for proper growth or even more uptrend in the market. And I think it's not just about Trump's tweet. I feel it is more related to the issue or the still brewing crisis with Iran. But let's look at some few details. So we've had Ethereum, Ripple, and Bitcoin and Solana as part of the major tokens that took the fall. So President Trump delivered a prime time address to the nation July 16, 2026. That was yesterday, mixing an economic report with a lengthy, controversial argument about declassified intelligence tied to elections. So he opened the tweet by touting economical gains under his administration. Our country is safer, stronger, and far wealthier than it has ever been, he said, contrasting it to what he called the worst inflation in 48 years at the start of his term. So Trump started his term by saying they are experiencing the worst inflation in 48 years, and now he's saying they are doing better than that. So he cited the recent inflation reading. This week, it was announced that inflation saw the largest monthly decline in more than 6 years. He also pointed to the stock market highest taxation profits in his big, beautiful bill, eliminating taxes on tips, overtime, and social security, and the drug pricing initiative he calls most favored nations. Drug prices are coming down by 70, 80, and 90%. So I talked about the classifying election intelligence that happened in the last US general election. So he claimed that the document from the previous findings shows that China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history. I think there was a part where he said, yes, that they hope to I think 200. Okay, yeah. So I found it. So he also referenced the Department of Homeland Security review. He said identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in the federal election. So he's saying that they do election scam for USA. No be me talk am, but even the biggest democracy is having electoral scam. So enough about that. Now, there's been some kind of prediction to say that we could actually have the previous odd season we witnessed in sort of the year 2024 and all. We could have them come back, but there are four scenarios that could actually trigger that to happen. So let's talk about the four scenarios that could probably push us to have another kind of odd season we had, because even in this last leg up we had where Bitcoin went all I know. Odd season really didn't do that well because people thought that okay, we are getting to the place of proper solution. If you don't have a solution, your project or your project might not get enough attention or funding, unlike the previous time where people just want to do pump and dump for fun. But however, do you actually think we can still have a proper hot season like we had in the year 2021? I'll leave you to answer that. But let's look at it. So the first scenario I highlighted here is Ethereum finally breaking out against Bitcoin. If you are a proper trader, you would have noticed that yes, Ethereum had always been lagging behind Bitcoin when compared to each other. I mean, in terms of growth. So Ethereum finally broke out against Bitcoin. Ethereum has been underperforming Bitcoin since December 2021, but the trend is now approaching a critical level. So according to a market analysis, ETC, Ethereum BTC is testing long-term resistance around 0.028. Ethereum bottomed against Bitcoin in April 2025, nearly 15 months ago, and a similar pattern appeared in 2019 before Ethereum broke higher in year 2021 and triggered the last major altcoin. So what this analysis is telling us, which is Michael Van de Pope, which is actually what is actually telling us is the fact that we might have a repetition of what we had in year 21, because in the year 2021, Ethereum broke higher than Bitcoin in year 2021 in terms of percentage growth. And we are having, let's say, a kind of premonition of that happening again because the data is tilting or giving that kind of signal. So you can get that more on this page. So the second one we are going to talk about, the second key scenario point is there are softer inflation that softer inflation keeps risk assets moving. And that's the fact that when inflation is reduced, there is something called M2, that is the money supply for common men, the money supply for the large citizen. And when people have money to spend, when they have enough to spend and keep, the people will start trying to put their money into assets, liquid assets that would give them returns. Now, if you look at the M2 graph over the years. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can check that. Just type M2 graphs to google.com. You see the M2 graph over the years so far. In this year so far, it has been increasing, not significantly, but slightly doing well compared to previous years. So, cites the last CPI, that is the Consumer Price Index report, added another positive signal for crypto market. Recent data showed that core inflation posted its biggest decline in more than 4 years. Expectation for another Federal Reserve rate hike dropped sharply. Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold, and silver all rallied following the inflation report. So now that inflation is reducing, the rate hike possibility has also dropped. M2 supply will definitely kick in, and people will have enough money to to start putting into cryptocurrency. And that is what is said in the third key point, that is liquidity starts supporting crypto again. Japan's M2 money supply has historically led Bitcoin moves by 84 days. The US dollar index DXY is testing resistance, which could support another liquidity if the dollar weakens. So if the dollar is weakening, what are people going to do? They're going to try to put their money into safer assets like crypto, gold, and other risk involved assets, and that is actually going to put the demand higher. And when the demand goes higher, basic economics means that the price is going to increase. So let's look at the fourth key point, which says altcoin begins catching up, right? So BTC has rallied nearly 660% from its 2022 lows, while Ethereum has only recently started reclaiming lost ground. That gap has left most altcoin well behind. Yeah, and that's because in the last year, 2025 to this year, 2026, Ethereum didn't really cover up much ground that was lost in the year 2022. It only did a little better, just a little compared to what Bitcoin did, right? So, and now that we're having a new return or a new value in the data that shows that, oh, we might have a change of scenario. That means Ethereum is trying to cover up the lost ground. That means altcoins might actually go higher. And I'm going to talk about the latest development that if you are in Indonesia or you have someone in Indonesia that you wish to send crypto to or to make an exchange on crypto. Now you have it that ByBit just acquired Nobi Exchange, which is going to give them the platform or the leverage to operate as a crypto custodial exchange in Indonesia. So I think yeah, and that is going to give them access to more than 21 million exchange users, right? So now let's look at this. So crypto exchange Bybit announced Thursday that it's launched a locally operated platform in Indonesia after acquiring a majority stake in the digital asset firm PT Encryption Technology Anda, formerly known as Nobi. The deal saw Nobi rebranded as Bybit Indonesia. The crypto exchange said it has plans to introduce its services to faces starting with 500 cryptocurrency trading pair. So now that's big news, big leg up for those who are in Indonesia. They have the chance to trade more assets, get more money, and do things they would love to do. So that's everything we have today so far on what happened in crypto today with financial literacy 101. And if you follow those, that means you love this content. That means you're getting something. So why don't you just like this video, share with your friends, and let them get to know what is happening, because we're actually going to see each other on Monday. So when next I come your way, stay cool and play big. Less than 10 minutes. I'm getting better every day.